Israeli attacks have killed at least 54 people across the Gaza Strip since dawn on Saturday. Bodies have been pulled from the rubble of a home in the Nuseirat camp in central Gaza. 3 Palestinians were killed there when an Israeli warplane bombed a residential block. In southern Gaza, a woman has been killed in a strike targeting a tent encampment housing displaced Palestinians. Several others were wounded in the attack on al-Mawasi in Khan Yunis. Children are among the injured. Israel's army has designated the area a so-called safe zone, but has repeatedly bombed it. Well, the strikes are the latest in a relentless escalation of Israeli attacks on Gaza. Well, that was the moment the army bombed another camp for displaced Palestinians in al-Mawasi in southern Gaza. It was the second attack there on Saturday, which killed 4 Palestinians and wounded several others. Hani Mahmoud is in Gaza City to talk about this in further detail. So, Hani, Easter Sunday for Palestinian Christians marked by more bombings on civilian areas. At least 54 killed, Hani.
Absolutely, it's another depressing morning with reports from hospital that those injuries arrived in the past 24 hours to remaining somehow operational. Health facilities are at risk of losing lives due to the acute shortage of medical supplies. And in fact, that there is a dire need for blood donation to save lives, but that's due to the malnutrition, the enforced starvation. People are unable to arrive to hospital and donate blood. So it's a multi-layered, complicated situation when it comes to this. But did that stop the strikes? Of course not. There is more of this happening, and this time, so far what we've seen, Gaza not evolve into a killing box or killing field, a concentration camp, largely an open-air prison, but now it's more of a testing lab with the use of more of the suicided drones, the kamikaze drones that have been targeting tents. And in less than 48 hours, we've seen 3 of these attacks targeting families while sleeping inside their tents, like the one that happened in al-Mawasi evacuation zone, where a tent was attacked by one of these kamikaze drones, the suicidal drones, and killed a woman inside the tents, and 4 more were critically injured. In a Nuseirat refugee camp, a house was bombed where 3 people reported killed initially, and then 2 later, in a couple hours later, 2 more, so getting the number into 5 people from one family killed in a residential home, 1 person in a drone strike in Beit Lahia city, and 1 more in Rafah. By the hour, the strikes continues to happen, and to be honest, sometimes it's hard to keep pace with the increased number of aerial attacks that so far targeting civilians, and people are simply either walking in the streets, sleeping inside tents, or they're sheltering inside one of the temporary shelters, whether it's their home, whatever remain of their residential homes, or inside any of the public facilities that are still standing. And by the way, standing here does not mean that this is a proper shelter. We've seen it. We did a tour checking some of these places. They lack the most basic supplies and basic necessities in terms of sanitation and hygiene to help people survive these difficult conditions.
And Hani, given the ever-present risk of attacks on tent encampments and so-called safe zones, I mean, how does this affect people? What does this do to people psychologically?
It's quite horrific. Safety is one of the things that people have been trying to convince themselves that it still exists. But every time these attacks are one more proof or another proof that there is no safer place across the Gaza, including displacement camps. These, by international law, when a population is being displaced, the areas where they're supposed to be protected, they're supposed to be safe, they're supposed to be away from these attacks. But what we're seeing here is, if we just do the ratio here, the attacks on displacement sites are more these days than attacks on residential buildings. The majority of people are concentrated in these areas, and the attacks are quite indiscriminate. Each attack leaves many people either injured or already killed at the site. So when it comes to the psychological impact, it's quite horrific to see people are seeking after safety and protection, but they don't find it. And we start hearing it from people. It's all an illusion right now. And the Israeli military, unfortunately, is using this narrative that is largely misleading, contradictory, vague per se, when we see people getting killed just by days or their arrival to these sites. And we keep hearing more and more from people that there is no safe zone in a war zone. The entire Gaza Strip, it's a war zone. It's more of a concentration camp right now, as I said, more of a killing field, and now more of a testing lab for all of these new weapons.
Hani, many thanks for that. Hani Mahmoud in Gaza City.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.